Hi everyone, welcome to Connect Coach. We have a masterclass today, and I'm really excited about what we're going to be working and how we're going to be just sharing some really cool stuff that's going to be supportive in you just writing amazing stuff and taking your business to the next level. But before we go into that, I just want to welcome you and just tell you a little bit about what Connect Coach is about, and what our aim is, what our business is about, and what we're doing in the world. And kind of in a nutshell, Connect Coach is about making a difference in people's lives, and that doesn't matter whether it's coaches or clients, actually. Because we make a difference in both lives. Our aim is to support the transformation so that people can actually live happier lives. And we do this through collaboration. We collaborate with coaches to help them grow their businesses and raise their visibility. And we collaborate with clients to actually match them with the right coach, which will be the exact right coach. We have a special system. It's a coach match system that we use, and it's really, really cool. So if you want to know more about that, let me know. We also collaborate with outside experts, and what we're doing is we're actually working with those experts to get their amazing knowledge and bring it to you coaches. As you can probably tell, I'm English. I've only been in this country for a short length of time, and I've made a lot of headway in the business that I've been doing, and I met a lot of really cool and interesting people. And one of those people is actually here with us today. When I first met Cheryl, I knew there was something about her. There was something about her that kind of really struck me. There was a passion in her, and she was so authentic and genuine and so warm-hearted and really intelligent. And I just knew that she would be a perfect person to work with. And so, I wanted to bring her here because she's got such great, she's helped me with my business a lot in many different ways. And I just know that she's going to be working with you and really helping you the same way that she helped me. So, Cheryl, welcome to Connect Coach. Welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I am super excited to be here. I'm just thrilled that you invited me here, and this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So this is going to be a fun time for everybody, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. And there's people coming on and joining us all the time. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. I would really suggest that everybody writes a question in, because Cheryl is just amazing at what she does, and you're going to definitely find some good answers that'll help you. But before we get into, I know everyone's kind of champing at the bit to find out about what you do, Cheryl, but before we really get into that, I'm just wondering if we can find a little bit more about you, and how did you, well, I know that you started it as a copywriter, but what do you actually do for your clients? We've talked a little bit. You started a coaching business, but actually, how did you get into this?
So you're right. I started as a copywriter, and for those of you joining us who are like, I don't know what that word means, it just means that I was helping people write the content for their websites and their launch materials and their speaking events. So I was doing the writing for them. But as Elizabeth mentioned, I've also started coaching people. So it's basically taking all the skill sets that I was using to write stuff for people and teaching business owners how to do it for themselves. And the reason I got into that was because while I was working with my writing clients and we would be collaborating and brainstorming and planning stuff together, I kept noticing how hard it was for them to come up with ideas on their own, or there were just simple copywriting techniques and tricks that they just had no idea how to do it. And they were like, wow, that's really interesting. I can use that when I'm writing my own stuff. And I believe that it's very important for every business owner to know how to do a little bit of writing for their business, because especially when you have an online component, that's going to be the thing that helps you connect with people if you're not there face to face. Or let's say you do meet them face to face and then they go and they check you out online. They still need to be able to resonate with you and say, right, that was her personality. And we see so many messages and websites written out there that are just boring and they're generic and they sound like anybody could have written them, or they are salesy and hypey and all that stuff that we go, ew, that's not fun over. So it's important for business owners to learn how to do this for themselves, because even if they get to the point where they're able to hire someone to do all the writing for them, which you always end up doing some of your own writing, no matter how far along you are. But even in that case, you still need to be able to look at what a writer is giving you and know if it's good and if it matches your voice and your brand and your personality and is really representing you. So that's why I started coaching people in it, because I saw people really needed help with it. And there were so many different levels and places where I could come in and help people with that.
That's so cool. Yeah. And I love that. And I've experienced some of the help that you've given me. And I think that that's very valuable for people to actually have their own level of, their own voice in it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the things, especially since we're talking to a lot of coaches, you have what I call a personal brand, where the brand is you, the business is you. It needs to be your voice, your personality, your philosophies. And sometimes it's easy when we're talking to someone about our business and what we're passionate about and what we really believe. But when we sit down to write, it's like all this stuff gets in the way.
Yeah, I hear you. I really do resonate with that. So when it comes to the type of things that you actually help business owners with, what are some of the biggest sticking points or the obstacles that you actually get caught up with?
Yeah. So the place that I see people getting stuck with a lot is, writer's block, but that's just kind of a big umbrella term for all the little hangups that we get stuck with. So, messaging, how do I talk about my business? How do I say what I do and how I help people in a way that actually connects with people and gets them interested and excited to work with me? And that's because we have, as we are the expert in our field, we have what I call the curse of knowledge, because we are on the other side of what the struggle is. So let's say you're a health coach and you know that the thing that you really help people with is you help them with their relationship with themselves, and body image issues and things like that. But the people that you're trying to connect with, they might not really know that they need to work on their self relationship. So if you start by talking about that, then they're going to be like, well, that's nice. That sounds lovely. But they're not going to be pulling out their credit card to pay you for that, because that's not on their mind as something they need. So figuring out the messaging and what is it that your people are actually looking for. And then the other hang up that I see people have is when it comes to the emotional part around writing. It's amazing to me how many people still have horror stories about, grammar school, in their grammar classes or their English literature classes, trying to write, and maybe a teacher told them they weren't good, or they got back a paper that they were so proud of and it was just marked all over with red ink and all the mistakes they made. And somewhere along the line, we decide that we're not good writers. So when we start our business, it's because we're good at what we do, we're passionate about it, and then we find out that we have to do all this writing. And we're like, this is not what I signed up for. I'm not good at this. So there's the emotional hangups. And then along with that is just not knowing what you're allowed to write about in your business. We always feel like we have to be professional, and we just don't know, is this going too far? Do I have permission to say this when it's, my own stories and things like that? And who is anybody really going to want to hear this? So it's just all of the self-doubt that comes up and slows business owners down.
Yeah, I can really imagine that stuff that comes up, that it can be actually really huge blocks for us around, do people really want to hear this? I can imagine that's a really big part. But since today's focus is all about messaging, I'm wondering, was there ever time for you that you struggled with your message?
Yes, yes, there definitely was. So for example, I used to introduce myself as a copywriter. And when I say copywriter, I'm using the version where the word write is spelled W-R-I-T-E, like you're writing something. But usually when people hear the word copywriter, they immediately think like legal trademarks and copywriting and that kind of stuff. So I would introduce myself as a copywriter, and then I would, continue by saying, I'm a copywriter. I help small businesses write their websites and their launch material. But I would have lost them by that point, because as soon as they heard the word copywriter, they thought, oh, I know what that is. And they would stop listening to me. And then they would say, so if I had like some intellectual property that I needed protected, you could help me with that? And I'd have to say, no, I can help you write I can help you write the intellectual property, but I can't do the legal side of it. And it's like I kept having to backtrack. And it's like, so I learned to stop using the word copywriter unless I knew I was in a group of business owners who knew that word. Because there's, people who've been doing the online marketing for a while. They know what that copy refers to, words and content. So they get it. But that was a really hard one for me, because it was just super easy just to say, I'm a copywriter, and expect everyone to get it. So my mentor, my own business mentor, actually had to help me with that, because again, doing it on your own in a vacuum by yourself is just plain hard, and you kind of default back to the easy thing, the way that you're used to talking about it.
That's so strange, and it's so funny, because I know what a copywriter is, so I would never have imagined that you would have had that problem, but to hear you talk about it, actually it makes sense.
Yeah, we were just at an event this past weekend, you and I I think the event host called me a copywriter from the stage a few times, and I had a few people who rushed to my sponsorship table, and they were like, I need your help. And I was like, great, let's talk. And then they started talking about legal trademarks and intellectual property. So yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, well, you just got to make sure that you give them the right information when they talk to the stage.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, Cheryl, you and we could carry on talking all day long, because I just love this. But I know that there's a lot of people that actually really want to find out what they came here for. So I'm actually going to hand it over to you, and then take it away. And there will be space for questions and answers at the end. And so stay on. And I know that Cheryl has got a freebie, so stay on for that as well. So here we go. I'm going to pass you over. All right. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, give me just a second, and I'm going to share my screen. This is the handout that is accompanying this class. So today we are talking about messaging and how to create a message that helps you stand out when you're talking about your business. And that includes when you're doing an elevator pitch, when you are at a networking event and everybody has minutes to stand up and talk about their business. What is it that you say that makes you stand out from the 3 other people at that event who maybe have a similar business to yours? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the elements that we're covering are going to be your elevator pitch and your point of view. Now, I know some of you listening, you might already have an elevator pitch that you like and it works for you. That's great. That's fantastic. I would still suggest just playing along with the exercises that we're going to go through, just to see if something new comes up for you. And then maybe at your next event, you can play with what you come up with during this class, and see if something else happens when you're talking to people. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So we are starting with your elevator pitch. So this is the super short introduction of yourself and your business. So think of this as the hello, nice to meet you, and what do you do conversation. What is your response to that question? So there are two different ways to approach your elevator pitch. One is to tell them who you work with and what problem you help those people solve. The other version is tell them who you work with and what you help those people to achieve or create. So one of them is more based around the problem and the struggle, and one is more based around the transformation that you give them. So for each of those, you can use this simple fill in the blank formula. For the first version, the problem struggle one, it's I help blank, your people, who are struggling with blank to do blank. So for example, I could say something like, I help small business owners who are struggling with finding the words to talk about their business to create messaging that makes them stand out and resonate with their ideal clients. So I'm talking about the struggle. They're struggling with their messaging and what do they say about their business. So that's the first version. The second version is I help blank, your people, to do, create, achieve, whatever verb works for you there. I help blank to do blank. And so on this one, I might say I help small business owners to create standout messaging that helps them connect with their ideal clients. Now, if you want to go a little bit further, especially if your first phrase is a little bit short, you can also add on a benefit to the end. And that is by adding on a phrase that starts with something like so they can, or so they don't have to, or so that. So for example, if I was doing the second one, I help small business owners to create standout messaging that helps them connect with their ideal clients. If I wanted to add on the benefit, I could then say, so that they can make more money, whatever benefit you think your people want. So that's how you can kind of beef it up a little bit. So then the next question obviously is, which version should you use? Because a lot of us, especially in the coaching realm, we don't like to dwell on the problems and the struggles. We want to be positive. We want to talk about the transformation. And that's great, but when you're selling or you're trying to get someone's attention, in most cases, people are more likely to spend money when you're solving a problem that they have. So that's why actually the first version, that I help people who are struggling with blank to do blank. Because when you're talking to someone, and again, this is your elevator pitch, it helps them identify, oh yeah, I'm totally struggling with that. I know someone who's struggling with that. My friend was just complaining about that over there when we were getting our glasses of wine together. So that's how they're gonna perk up a little bit. So if you just do the transformation, that might be the one where they're like, yeah, that sounds lovely, that sounds nice. But they might not quite realize, oh yeah, I need that. I'm kind of stuck on that myself. So again, play with either version, but if you're able to throw in the struggle or the problem, I highly recommend trying that one. But again, the best way to decide which version to use is to test it. You can experiment with both versions and see which one gets a better response, especially when you're talking to a potential client. So sometimes one of the things that we do is we're testing out our messaging and our elevator pitches, and we're seeing what kind of reactions we get, and that's great. But sometimes we are talking to people who are not really in our target market anyway, and then we're like, well, they didn't respond to that, so I guess it didn't really work. But if they're not your target market, they're probably not going to respond to it anyway. So really take note when you're talking to a potential client. How do they respond? When you're like, oh, this person would be great for my program, see which version they respond to more. And then the other thing to do is to make sure you are using your ideal client's language. And this is where we talked about the curse of knowledge before, because you're the expert. You often have a different vocabulary around the problem or issue. So for example, you may know that a woman has self-love issues, but all she knows is that she hates being alone and she falls into one bad relationship after another. So you know, if you're talking about self-love, she might say that sounds lovely, but it's not going to ping in her brain, right, I need that. So instead of saying, I help women who struggle with self-love, you might try saying, I help women who've been struggling with a string of bad relationships. And when I say use your ideal client's language, whatever phrase you use for that struggling with a string of bad relationships, you want to try to use the vocabulary that they're actually using to describe that. So if you're like, my people would never say a string of bad relationships, say what they would actually say. And the way that you're able to find that language is to take notes when you're talking to them in your strategy sessions or your consultations or your sales conversations. Take notes on when they're talking about the thing they're struggling with. What words do they use to describe it? A good way to think about this is, how do they complain about it? What do they say when they're complaining? And try to start using those words and phrases in your messaging. Another example is, you might know that the true result of working with you is total transformation in all areas of your clients' lives, but your ideal client doesn't even know what that looks like. So sometimes we start talking about, you know, the overall result that people get, but it's such a huge leap for people who are still stuck in a very specific struggle. It's such a leap for them to even imagine what that would be like, or to know that it's possible. It's not something that they're already thinking they want. So it's hard to hook them in and get their attention, to get them to pay you money based on that. So instead of saying, I help women transform their lives, try talking about the specific things that you see are popping up for them. It might be something, if you're a parenting coach, I help women who are tired of fighting with their teenagers. So really find those specific things that they're dealing with. And again, it's experimentation. You can have fun with it at different events, try different versions of it. And then eventually, especially if you're just getting started as a coach, the more you start getting new clients and you're actually working with people, the more you're going to start to see a pattern around the people that you actually really enjoy working with. And you'll start to say, all of these people are struggling with this similar thing. Maybe that's the thing I'm going to start talking about. Or maybe you'll start to see a pattern around clients that maybe you don't really enjoy working with, which I know is also sometimes hard for us as coaches, because we want to help everybody. We want to heal the world and make a difference in everybody's lives. But one of the things that you have to stay in integrity around for yourself is, who are the people that you're most able to help? And if sometimes you'll just notice that there are some clients, they're just not receiving as much transformation from working with you. And maybe that's because they're not ready for your work yet, or they just don't jive too well with your personality. And that's not a failing for you as a coach. It's just not a good fit. So that's when you want to be honest. Who am I best able to help and make a difference in their lives? And maybe you'll notice a pattern on the people where it's just not really working out. You'll say, they're all struggling around this thing, or they're all using this language. So maybe I'm going to stop talking about those specific things because I don't want to attract those people anymore. So always be taking notes and keeping track of what people are telling you, and who is saying what, so you can look back 6 months down the road and decide, yep, I want more of those people, or done with those people.
Cheryl,
Okay.
just interrupting you.
Yes.
We've just had some people saying that the screen is a little fuzzy. Is there any way we can make it a little bigger, please?
Let's see what I can do. Let's see, does that help?
Does that help everybody? It looks better as far as mine is. Yep, that looks really good.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, guys.
Thank you.
Well, we are now moving into your turn to work on this. So we're gonna do this super quickly just to give you a little bit of exercise, but we have a lot of content to cover. So we're gonna go through this right away. But your turn, use one of those fill in the blank options, whether it's the one I help blank who are struggling with, or I help blank to do, create, achieve, where it's more of the transformational one. So I'm gonna give you 1 minute to do that, 60 seconds. So go ahead and start. And then remember, if you want to, you can add on that benefit statement, the so they can, or so that, or so they don't have to. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, so yep, 60 seconds is super fast when you're trying to write stuff and think. But that's just something just to get you going. Don't spend too much time agonizing over it. Give yourself permission to be messy and have fun with it, and just know that you're going to be experimenting and tweaking throughout your entire business. I just experimented with some new elevator pitches over this past weekend. So we're always tweaking.
Cheryl, I'm just interrupting you again. Apologies. Yes. Apparently, people are still saying that it's a little fuzzy, and it's still a little difficult to read. I don't know if there's anything else we can do to make it.
The only thing I can think is zooming in, but I don't know if it'll.
I mean, on my screen, it's perfectly clear. So I'm not quite sure.
Okay, so I just tried zooming in again. Does that help?
It looks great my end. Oh, people are saying maybe change your browser.
Well, it's not a browser, it's a PDF, so it's just...
No, not for you, for other people.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, people are saying it's much better. Perfect.
Okay,
all right.
Great. Sorry.
That's okay. Thanks.
Okay. And Elizabeth, did they receive a copy of this handout also?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
I just realized that. So I apologize. I apologize to everybody. And I don't know if there's a way that we've got a link that we can just send them a quick copy.
I would have to upload it to my site. But if you guys want to get a copy of this PDF, I won't be able to send it right now during this call, but you can email me at Cheryl@copylove.com. And that is CHERYL at copylove, and love is spelled LUV.com. Let's see. Oh, so there's info@copylove.com up there on the screen. You can email info at, or you can email Cheryl at, either one.
I'm going to see if I can just send to the attendees right now whilst people.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So either way, know that you'll get this PDF, so you'll have this full-on version of the text. So if you just want to take the extra notes on the things where I'm adding extra stuff verbally, then just know that you'll get this. Thanks, Elizabeth. Okay, so we're going to go into your point of view, and this is the really fun part, but this is also the part where a lot of people get stuck. So the point of view, why do you need a point of view or a POV? Your point of view helps to differentiate you from your competition. It helps you stand out, and this is the thing that helps to attract your ideal clients, because if someone knows that they want to lose weight, and maybe they've met 5 different health coaches over the past month, who are they going to choose? It's got to be someone who's standing out, who really resonates with them. And that's what your point of view can help you do. That's the point of view is the thing, again, when you're at a networking event and everybody gets to stand up and talk about themselves for 2 to 5 minutes, and you're like, oh no, there's 2 other people here who do the exact same thing I do, and their pitch sounded exactly like mine. Great. Having a strong point of view is going to be the thing that helps you stand out and is going to make people remember you over the others. So, how to find your point of view? We're going to go through a little exercise. I'm going to talk you through it first, and then you're going to have a chance to sit down and do it for yourself. So, how to find your point of view? You're going to answer 3 questions. The first one is, what is your topic? And when I say topic, it's the most general, broad category of stuff that you do, like health, business, graphic design, yoga. For me, it's copywriting. And this is kind of like if you were a book in a bookstore, what section would you be in? So even though you're a health coach who maybe specializes in something very specific, just give us the broadest thing that you work on. And then the next question is, what is your opinion about your topic? So no one's necessarily going to know what you chose as your topic. The thing that we want to know is what's your opinion about that topic. So it could be something that you believe with all of your heart that your ideal clients need to know about that topic. And then the next question you're going to ask yourself is, what are the consequences? What's at stake if someone does not follow your opinion? What will or will not happen if someone does not learn what you have to teach, what you're sharing? So, for example, for myself, Cheryl Binnie, my topic is copywriting. My opinion is that everybody has powerful stories, lessons, and beliefs that they can share. Everybody. The consequence is if you don't uncover and use those stories, lessons, and beliefs, your writing and your messaging will be boring and it will not connect with your ideal clients. So that's how I pull all of that together. So this is going to be your turn, and I'll talk to you a little bit more as we go through it. So in case it's a little bit confusing or you're not quite sure what they mean. So you're going to answer these 3 questions for yourself. And remember, don't be a perfectionist right now. Don't judge yourself. Just write whatever comes and then write the next thing. Just keep going. So the first question is, what is your topic? Again, this is the most general title you would give your topic. What section in a bookstore would you be in? Okay. Number 2 is, what is your opinion about your topic? And we're going to go through a few different exercises to help you figure this out. So the first one we're going to do is finish this phrase as many times as you can, and you're keeping this relevant to your business topic. So you're going to finish the phrase, I believe, and just, try to give us 3 to 5 different things that you believe about your topic. I believe da 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 da. I believe da 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 da. Just let your mind go wild. What do you believe? Okay, about 10 more seconds on this one. Okay, great. And remember, you can always come back to this and play with it more after the class. So another thing we're going to do to try to help come up with what is your opinion. Now I want you to think about things in your industry, the industry of your topic, things that make you angry or break your heart when you see them happening. Maybe you see other people in your industry doing things a specific way and you're like, no, it does not need to be done that way. Uh, Elizabeth and I have a colleague who she does health, and one of her things is she does not like the way big pharma and big food sell stuff to you because they're just trying to make more money and they tell you lies. So that's one of the things that she talks about. So things in your industry that make you angry, or if you're like, it doesn't really make me angry, maybe it's something that makes you sad when you see people struggling with this thing, because you know that if they just knew what you had to share, they wouldn't have to struggle with it anymore. Okay, about 10 more seconds on this one. Okay, great. So then another thing to help come up with what is your opinion, we're going to say, When you see your potential client struggling with something, what is the one truth you really want them to know? When they're struggling with the thing that you could help them solve, what is it that they need to know? Okay, 10 more seconds. All right, great. So from those 3 different exercises, I want you to look at everything you just wrote down, and you're going to see if there's one thing, one of those opinions or one version of that that resonates with you the most, or one that is an overarching umbrella for all the rest. Maybe you wrote down a bunch of stuff and you're noticing they all kind of fall underneath this one big thing. So now give yourself a little bit of time to take that one big thing and write it here, or you can recraft it. If you wrote it up above already, you can tweak it and figure out, how do I actually want to say this as my opinion? Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, great. Now we're going to move on. And again, this is something you can always come back to. You're always going to be playing with it and tweaking it. So number 3 is, what are the consequences of not following that opinion that you just came up with? What's at stake here? What will happen or what will not happen if someone does not learn what you have to teach? If they never learn the thing that you are here to share? What could possibly happen? So for me, reminder of what my consequence was, I was talking about using your personal stories and lessons and beliefs. And if you don't do that, the consequence is your writing and your messaging is going to be boring and generic, and it won't connect with your ideal clients. So what is your consequence if people don't do things the way you teach it? And this isn't like you're punishing them, it's just a fact. If they don't learn how to do X, they're always going to be struggling with Y. Okay, and I know sometimes this is the hard one. Although for some people, they're like, nope, I know exactly what's going to happen if they don't take this on. So give yourself permission to not be perfect with it. 5 more seconds. Okay, so now we're going to take everything that you just came up with, and we're going to put it together in a statement. Remember the one opinion that you narrowed it down to and the consequence of not following that opinion. And the way you can put this together into a statement, there's a couple ways. You can use an if-then statement. If you never figure out blank, then you will always struggle with blank. Or if you keep doing X, then you will always struggle with Y. If you keep doing X, then you will never Z. Another way you can do it is you can tell us what most people do or think. You can say most entrepreneurs are stuck in blank because they haven't figured out blank. Or most people will always blank because they think blank. Or most people think blank, that's why they blank. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of time to see how you want to put your statement together. And don't be afraid to say it how you really mean it. Sometimes when I'm working on this with my private clients, I really have to encourage them to like take a stand for it. Sometimes I have to tell them, get mean with it, get nasty. Like if you were in an argument and you could really say it how you wanted to say it, how would you say it? And then they say it, and I'm like, it's okay, we can always soften it after the fact. And then they're like, no, this is actually how I want to say it, because this is what it really is. So give yourself permission to like really stick to it. And just know that the first thing you come up with might not be the one that you go with. You might try writing it a few different ways. Play with writing the different versions of this, the if-then version or the most people will always version. You'll eventually find one that works best for you. Okay, 10 more seconds on this one. Okay, great. You're doing great. Okay, so now that you have this statement, this is what we call your point of view statement, the thing where you have combined it all together, the opinion and the consequence. So that's the point of view statement. So now where do you use that point of view? You can use it everywhere. You can use it in your speaking events, in your website copy, in your articles and blog posts. So it doesn't have to show up in every single thing you write, but it's going to kind of be that anchor point for you. So when I say your website copy, maybe the statement that you just came up with, maybe you're like, I like that. That belongs on my homepage, front and center. That's the first thing people need to see when they come to my website. And your speaking events, for example, when I do a speaking event, I tell a little introduction story about myself and how I had a client who was struggling with this kind of stuff because she was scared that if she was super honest, she was going to scare away potential clients. And I helped her work through that and come up with the thing that the people really needed to hear from her. And I'm telling this story at my speaking events. And then at the end of my story, I move into my point of view and I'm able to say, and I realize people need help with this, because they're scared to do this on their own. It's hard to do this on your own. And that's why there's a lot of generic and boring messaging out there, because people are not using their personal stories and life lessons and experiences. So that's how I'm able to use my point of view in a speaking event. I tell a story that supports it, and then I'm able to say that point of view. Another place you can use your, oh, looks like my screen share turned off. Let me turn that puppy back on. Okay, so in conversations, so usually your point of view is not the opening line when you're shaking hands with someone for the first time at a networking event. You don't want to be like, if you don't learn how to use your personal stories, you're not going to connect. Yes.
Cheryl, sorry to interrupt you. Everything is turned off your end now. So there's no picture, there's no anything. So
let's see. It shows on my side that I am screen sharing and presenting. So you don't see the PDF anymore?
No, don't see anything.
Let's see. I wonder.
Oh, okay. Apparently other people can see it. For some reason I can't. That's so interesting.
Oh, it's excluding you. That's not nice.
That's a little challenging.
Well, if anybody else cannot see it, can they pipe up in the chat room and just let us know?
Picture. You can see the PDF clearly. Okay. So it's just me that can't for some reason.
Okay.
But then I'm just going to be quiet and let you carry on.
All right. Well, if anybody else has it, please pop up in the chat box to let us know. Okay. So yeah, so in your networking events, you're shaking hands, you're meeting someone for the first time. You probably are not going to open with the line, if you don't use your personal stories, you're not going to connect with your ideal clients. So the opening line that you want to have, that's the elevator pitch. That's the first thing that we talked about, where it's I help blank who are struggling with blank. Now, your point of view, it may come up naturally as the conversation continues, and that's totally fine. Just don't feel like you have to force it into every single conversation that you have. Just make it natural and organic. Okay, so what happens if you're speaking to a group of people who, quote unquote, already know your point of view? So, for example, let's say you are a meditation coach and you're doing a presentation at a yoga studio. There's a good chance that most of your audience, they're going to think, I already know what she has to say. And the problem is, if they think they already know it, they're likely not to listen to you, because in their mind, they're thinking, I know what this is already. Exactly like when I use the word copywriter, people think, oh, I know what she's saying, and then they stop listening to me. So that also happens when you are using the correct word and they think they've already figured this thing out. So your challenge is to get these people to pay attention and to realize that, yes, they need your help too. So one way to do it, and this is what I've been having my clients do lately, and they've been getting really great responses from this, is they just call it out. They allow everyone a chance to say, yes, I already know this. And then they turn it on its head somehow. So here's an example of how you might do this. Show of hands. How many of you have practiced some form of meditation before? Okay, great. And how many of you are familiar with concepts like mindfulness and awareness and being in the present moment? Great, great. We've all heard about these things. And for the most part, we probably think they're a good idea, right? That's why we come to yoga class. That's why we come to workshops like this one. So at this point, they're nice and proud of themselves. They're kind of patting themselves on the back mentally, like, yep, I'm good. I'm a star student already. And then you can say, but now I want you to get really honest with yourselves. How many of you feel like you're actually living that kind of lifestyle, where you're actually mindful and in the present moment all the time? And if you get them to be honest with you, a lot of them are going to say, oh, no, maybe not. And then you can just transition into telling them that's why you're there, because you have something that can help them. For example, I have a client who kind of uses this intro, and her whole thing is, I give you practical tools and steps that you can use every single day. That's the missing piece. So when you get them to kind of tattle on themselves, then you can say, it's not your fault. Don't worry, you were never taught this, or you're not alone. Everybody struggles with this thing. I have the solution that's going to help you. So that's one way to get people who think they already know what you're talking about. That's one way to get them to pay attention, is to kind of surprise them, get them to get honest with themselves about what's really going on. And then, as we keep saying, just remember your point of view is going to evolve and shift. Some of you are just getting started with your first clients. And once you start working with more people, you'll start to form stronger opinions about your topic, because you'll see more of the things that people are struggling with and the false beliefs they have. Some of you might be in the middle of shifting your brand, so you feel like you've recently gotten much clearer on what it is that you do and who you help. So you're ready to come out with a brand new point of view that matches this new version of you. And then some of you have been at this for a while, but maybe you feel like you've been lost in the crowd and you don't have anything that really makes you stand out. So it's time to stop being nice and stop playing safe and trying to make everybody like you. And it's time to really take a stand for your opinion. What is the thing you want people to know? And at first, you might feel timid about your point of view, and that's okay. You might be scared that people are going to disagree. That's okay. There probably will be people who disagree. The whole point of your point of view is to help attract your ideal clients, not the people who are kind of lukewarm about you and the kind of people that you are lukewarm about them. You don't want to attract the people who are never going to pay you anyway. You don't have to please them. I give you permission. You don't have to make them happy or say something that's going to make them comfortable. Your ideal clients are the ones who will become your raving fans. But the problem is they can't find you if you don't share your point of view. So give yourself permission to voice your opinion. And that is it for our content today, everybody. Thank you for sticking with me with the tech glitches and the fuzzy screen. And let's see, do we have Elizabeth with us still?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Great, great.
So maybe you could just stop sharing your screen if you have.
Yeah, okay.
And then we're going to, bear with me. And then we're going to, there, boom, I'm back. So, Cheryl, that was great. That was really cool. Thank you. Thank you so much for your information. And I'm so glad that other people could see it, because it was obviously a glitch my end. I'm just hoping that the recording doesn't have the glitch, and that everything works with that. So it was really cool. And even as you were kind of teaching us, we were just really looking at, I was writing down things about, okay, so I help coaches who are struggling with getting clients to raise their visibility and grow their business. So even I've done this a few times, we're still redoing it. So I'd really recommend anyone that's out there that if you have done it a few times, still carry on doing it, because you're always fine-tuning it and getting it right. So we did have a couple of questions at the beginning, which were things, so people were asking you, okay, so you're not a copywriter now, so what do you call yourself?
Well, I don't try to give a title, but I do. So when I do need to have a title for myself, I'll say I'm a writing and messaging expert, or I'm a writing and messaging coach for small business owners.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I usually go with the version of the elevator pitch, where I talk about who I help and what they're struggling with and what I help them create.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So if anyone else has any other questions, please pop them in the box. And we will be sending out the PDF. I do apologize. We obviously had a technical. We've been technically challenged today in more than one way. So that email didn't get out to you, obviously, but we will be sending that out. And what other question? It actually doesn't look like anyone else has any other questions, but we still got a lot of people on. So what your pitch again? Remind us what your pitch is.
Well, the funny thing is I kind of change it every time I'm talking to a different group of people. Like I said, it depends, because if I know I'm surrounded by business owners who have been doing online marketing for a while, and I know that they've been launching programs for a few years, then I can use the word copywriter. But if I know I'm around people who maybe they're in more beginning stages of their business, or if I'm in mixed company, or I'm just not sure, then I will say that I am a messaging and writing coach for small business owners, or I'll say I help small business owners who are struggling to come up with a messaging that attracts their ideal clients and to use it in their websites and their marketing material.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions that have just come in. Barbara was asking, what kind of differences did you see, Cheryl, as you changed?
Oh, that's a great question. Although differences in my messaging or differences in the responses that I was getting from people, I'm not quite sure.
That part wasn't asked, the specifics of it. So give us both sides.
Okay. Yeah. So the differences in terms of my own business, because I did start out as a copywriter, I was doing the writing for my clients. I was writing their websites. I was writing their sales pages and emails, and I still do that for a handful of clients. And when I started going out to more networking events and meeting more people who maybe were in beginning levels of their business, when I would talk about that, they would be like, oh, that's great. I hate writing, or I really need help with that. But then I wouldn't have a service that I could necessarily give them because they weren't at a point where they could make that kind of investment, Or I would tell them, you don't need to make this investment right now. You need to start getting more clients so that you can learn more about your own message. Because if we try to write your website before you've worked with anybody, then as soon as you start working with people, you're going to change your mind and you will have made that investment. So that's when I started shifting into working with coaching and coaching clients on how to do this for themselves. And it's a very fun collaborative process where we're working on it together. It's very much a team effort between the two of us. And when I started doing that, that's when I was like, okay, I need to start talking about myself differently. I can't just say I'm a copywriter anymore. And the things that really helped me experiment with my message was when I was doing speaking events and doing sponsorships when I knew I was in front of a room just full of my ideal people. Because every time I delivered my pitch or I used my point of view in a speaking spot, I could tell directly because I could see how many people rushed to talk to me afterward. And that just kind of helped message and tweak it a little bit more each time. I think every time I've done a sponsorship, I have reprinted my material to hone my message just a little bit more. And each time I get more and more people just approaching me based on what they see printed on my banner stand or what they hear me say when I'm on stage.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I can imagine that, being, and we do need to keep on tweaking, don't we? Every single time we just need to keep on tweaking. So so I think that's, that's really important. Okay, so we got a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Which is, do you sometimes feel like you have to spoon feed clients who can't always write on their own?
I guess yes and no. I guess for me, it's more of a holding your hand process than spoon feeding, because the way that I work with people, especially in the coaching sessions that I do, is I'm just getting you to talk to me, and I'm asking the questions that I know will get the right material out of you. So it's all coming out of you, and it's your voice, and it's the way you would normally talk about it. And I'm able to take what you're saying and I can tweak it. I type it up as we go, and I put it in the right order, or I start to format it. So at the end, you're able to see what we've created together. And sometimes you don't even remember those words coming out of your mouth. And I've had clients say, wow, you make me sound brilliant. And I laugh and I'm like, you said that. That came out of you. But for a lot of us, it's so much easier for us to talk about it than it is to sit down and write it. So I let you talk about it and I guide that conversation, and then I'm able to turn it around and give it back to you. So it's more, I feel like it's more holding your hand. And I have clients who they want to learn more about copywriting techniques, like how do you format things and tweak them so it works on the internet and gets people to take actions. And that's when I do more of the teaching part. So yeah, more of hand holding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And I'm just suddenly remembering that you have got a freebie for people. So
oh yes, I do.
do you want to put that up? And it is a freebie. We're not selling anything. We're just giving away.
Totally free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it up on the side of your screen. Oh, and I just refreshed it. So I'm going to screen share really quick so you can see what the page looks like. And let's see, is that popping up for everyone?
It is. It's a little book of story prompts. That's what it says.
So let me just type in. We're doing this on the fly. Woohoo! I'm going to type in a thing so I can give you guys the URL in the actual webinar. So there's a button. Yes, please. And there you go. So the thing that just popped up on the side of your screen, it's got a little orange button that says yes, please. If you click that, it'll open up a new tab. So don't worry, you should not lose us. And that'll take you to that page that I'm sharing with you right now, where you can just enter your name and email address. And this little book of story prompts is just a quick little PDF guide that takes you through a bunch of brainstorming exercises to help you come up with stories that you can use in your blogs, newsletters, and speaking events. And then the last page on it tells you how do you then structure that story. And that's where you can start to figure out, this story is going to help support my point of view that I just came up with.
Perfect. And maybe you can just cut and paste that that link and just pop it in the bottom as well.
Yeah,
if you can do that.
I'm not sure where I can put the URL, but I can say it out loud if that's helpful.
Let me.
Should I can put it in the chat box maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Pop it in the chat box.
Got it. Okay. Freebie. There we go. So it
Perfect.
is copylove.com/gift.c2c.
Excellent.
For Connect to Coach.
Excellent. Okay. And so Liz was also asking, what do you feel is the difference between a niche and a point of view, POV?
Oh, that's a great question, Liz. So your niche is related to your target market. So the niche is the very narrow selection of people that you want to be working with. So it's the people. So it might be women in their 50s who are leaving their corporate career. You know, that would be very specific. Whereas a point of view is more your opinion. What is the thing the people in your niche need to know?
Perfect. Hopefully, that's great. Hopefully that's answered that question. Excellent. Well, I don't know. Can you see me all now? I don't know if you can see me. It's interesting. My whole system seems to have crashed.
And it told me that you were presenting. So
okay. I can't see me, but that's all fine. It seems like my computer's just having one of those days. I do remember it said somewhere that it needed an update, so obviously it really needs an update. Okay, so I think we're just about done. I mean, you know, we could sit here and we could you know, carry on talking about copy and you know, our message and how we create the right message, but I really recommend you definitely take advantage of Cheryl's a special offer that she's got there, the freebie, and because there's a lot of really more interesting stuff in that book that you're going to get. It's going to be useful to you. And then and I think that's just about it. So I want to thank you all really for for having lunch and learn with us in our masterclass with Cheryl. And Cheryl, thank you for being amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And you know, you're so, you know, the way that you help people is just phenomenal. So
thank you
for taking the time out and being with us today. And just to finish off, if you're not part of the Connect to Coach team and you want to know more about us and what we do with the coaches and how we support coaches in getting clients and how we support coaches in growing their businesses and raising their visibility, then please feel free to drop me a line. We'll be sending an email out after this just saying with the handout, with the link, with everything. And if you want to set up a call with me and just have an offline chat, then go to Connect Coach, Connect-Coach. No, hang on. Let me put it in the box. It's easier. It's connect-coach.com. And you will, and then you can see what we do. There we go. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.